Maple syrup producers pump out hundreds of thousands of gallons of the sweet stuff every year, but warmer weather is creating challenges for sugar makers. Meteorologist Addis Uklo takes a look at how the changing climate prevented producers from tapping much sap this year.
We're in the midst of our warmest spring on record after our warmest winter in over 90 years. This change in climate affects not just us humans, but also the various goods that we produce. Maple syrup producers had an especially rough season because of the warmer than average weather and the earlier start to the growing season.
A lot of Pennsylvania was done by early to mid-March. Most of the time we make syrup at least until late March, sometimes the first week in April.
The process of getting maple syrup to your kitchen table begins in the maple trees during winter. The first step is extracting the sap. This process requires nighttime lows just below freezing and sunny afternoons in the 40s in order to get the sap flowing. When it's time, small holes are drilled into the trees and a small metal spout or spile is tapped into the hole, which collects the sap underneath. Ideally, there's about a 6 to 8 week window to work with. However, mild weather can disrupt this process, limiting the number of days to tap.
The trees, when it's above freezing like that all the time, the buds open faster on the trees, and once those buds open up, the process in the tree changes.
While producers are still making syrup, they have to pay more attention to the weather and be ready to tap earlier in the season, which could now be as soon as early January. Kyle estimates that sap yield was down 60 to 70% across the state. And while there's no big impact to consumers yet, the future is uncertain when it comes to production and the cost of it.
I often wonder long term, if the season gets to a point that it's too short, will producers decide that it's not feasible will producers stop trying to make syrup?
Winter is our fastest warming season, and for industries that rely on the cold weather, that is not good news. The average winter temperature in Pittsburgh in the late 1970s was around 26 degrees. Now, almost 50 years later, that number is almost 10 degrees higher. Now, it's not all bad news. Kyle says that producers have started to plant more maple trees and started using new tools like vacuums in order to extract more of that sap. It's all a part of the change we have to make in order to fight against the warming seasons. Addis Uklo, Channel 11 News.